I'll start this video off by saying I don't like Your Name, so if you think I'm here to jerk Your Name off, then I'm sorry, but I don't think you'll enjoy what I have to say about it. Also, I guess a disclaimer that this is more of a technical look at the film, but I do go over some things that are my personal opinion. So if my own shitty opinion has opened the raging gates of hell in your heart, just remember it is just an opinion. This isn't gospel. We good on that? Great. So let's begin. Your Name has been credited as one of the best animated films in recent times, with stunning visuals and a heartwarming story of two star-crossed lovers finding each other. People went absolutely nuts over this movie, saying it was one of the most beautiful movies they've ever experienced. I mean, go anywhere online and ask anyone, and the majority will give it a high praise. For me, I'd give it a It is by no means bad, but when considering all things of the film, the animation was definitely the best part of the movie. Because it's an animated movie, I can't necessarily say that's a bad thing, but it creates a perfect top layer to distract us from the glaring problems that are the script, the characters, and the plot overall. Think of the animation as the beautiful icing decorations atop a shitty tasting cake that is the script. Anytime I talk to someone about this movie, all they ever do is gush about how great the animation was. The story usually tends to be an afterthought. I'm ashamed to say I used to be part of that group, and I'm only ashamed of it because I usually look at a film front to back, inside and out, for what it is. But the film as a film, when looking at every element and everything that makes a film, is mediocre. The character development was kind of backwards or non-existent. The dialogue didn't really strike any chords apart from the introduction and the last line, only because it was the name of the film. And holy shit, are there a ridiculous amount of plot holes in this thing. Like, these aren't plot holes that are just things to easily ignore. These are plot holes that make you sit there and go, oh my god. I'll explain that more later, but for now, let's actually get into the film and its use of animation. The first time I looked away from the animation and became aware of how mediocre this film was overall was when it beat Spirited Away at the box office. That just didn't sit right with me, mainly because Spirited Away was something so magical and incredible. I won't deny my nostalgia blindness, and that definitely contributed to it, but it didn't have everything to do with it. So I watched through Spirited Away again, then watched through Your Name right after it, and it was then I noticed just how weak both the script and plot was for Your Name. Spirited Away was absolutely solid in its story, had incredible development of character, and had some dialogue that was both charming and heartwarming. It didn't really feel like Your Name could compete with it at all, apart from with its animation. Then I heard rumors of Hollywood making a live-action version of Your Name, which I still don't know if it's true, and people were arguing about how that can't happen because animation is a medium made for itself. Nearly every animated film you see has been made for that medium, and that existence is its perfect form. But when I saw someone ask why Your Name had to be an animated film, I didn't see one good refute for it. And it was in that moment I realized, oh my god. The only reason Your Name needs to be animated is because that stunning layer of animation is what elevates this film from mediocre to excellent. The shots in Your Name can absolutely be recreated in live-action film. The plot and story doesn't lend itself to just animation. And the only scene I can think of that's possibly the only animation-exclusive scene is when the male lead gets yeeted back into the past through drinking the female lead's fermented spit. And holy shit, if the entire movie used animation like this, then that'd be something to toot its horn about. But sadly, it doesn't, and even then, films such as Stardust, Narnia, and even, dare I say, Harry Potter have all managed to create that magical feeling through live action. If you're either unsure or not understanding of what I mean by this, take for example the Avatar: The Last Airbender animated series, and then take the M. Night live action adaptation of it. While there were many problems with the live action, it's still quite clear a live action probably isn't great for this series. The reason? The structures and scenery around them, the animals within the world, and especially the bending. Sure, with a better director, it may have been possible to show fire, earth, and water bending, but it is very difficult to show air bending and the impact and strength it has through a live action film. Why? because you can't see air in real life, but through the freedom of animation you can show it to its full potential. Then, of course, are the fight scenes themselves. Because of limits of technology, we just don't have the ability to show the strength and realness of these fights. It's hard to be invested in a film when all you can see is CGI water, a CGI flying bison, and an invisible push of wind. It's for this reason I am genuinely in fear of the new live action that's being made for Netflix, so can't wait to see how that turns out. Another example of a bad animation to live action attempt is the more recent The Lion King. And I know a lot of people loved this movie, for some reason, you weirdos. But it's hard to deny the loss of magic in the live action. The animals have no expression, the musical scenes don't pop, and you can barely tell the lions apart. The Lion King was made to be an animation, and the live action's existence is proof of that. So now imagine, if you will, what a live action Spirited Away would look like. I'm sure we can all agree that it wouldn't look good. That's because Hayao Miyazaki uses the freedom of animation to its fullest. He makes sure to make stories or take stories and bend them so their only existence can be in animation. One exception is The Wind Rises, but even then he took that story and used not only animation but other elements of film along with animation to create something spectacular. There's a fantastic video by Captain Christian that explains how Miyazaki uses sound as well as animation, and I'll link that video below. I think the only true exception to the Miyazaki animation rule is his film Ocean Waves, which was kind of just a slice of life that could have very easily been a live action. But anyway, just think about it. Why is it Hollywood has decided the more recent Your Name would make a better live action compared to the classic and legendary Spirited Away? It may be because Miyazaki just doesn't want remakes, and fair enough, I respect my grandpa. But it'd definitely be because a live action of Spirited Away would either be too difficult or just can't be imagined. For Your Name though, it is quite simple and easy to copy and paste scene for scene from the animated film into a live action one. I mean, it's so simple that even a fan-made live action trailer can be made for it just by taking different scenes from different movies. I fucking challenge you to do that with Spirited Away. I guess this really isn't a fair comparison considering Your Name and Spirited Away have very different tones, so what if we took something like A Silent Voice and compared them instead? For the record, A Silent Voice is a way better film, but I'll go into that another time. A Silent Voice and Your Name both share slice of life elements, and they're both character studies with a male and female lead. A Silent Voice actually arguably has less fantastical shots than Your Name, so why is it an animation? Because A Silent Voice relies completely on facial expression, small movements, and visual character quirks. This is because our female lead is deaf and she must communicate everything she's feeling through expression, which actually communicates more than her sign language. Meanwhile, our male lead has heavy anxiety and many nervous tics that are shown through the shake of his eyes, the small shake of his hands, his nervous sweating, and of course his expressions as well. While it's not impossible for a live action to replicate all of these, it's safe to say animation can show the small details and execute more expressions. I even found an article that stated A Silent Voice didn't necessarily demand to be an animated feature, but because KyoAni's creators are able to put so much expressiveness into the characters, it communicates much of what they're feeling without words. A Silent Voice also does utilize its animation to show our male lead when his anxiety is starting to become unbearable, and also shows metaphorical shots that lend themselves to animation. Then compare that to Your Name. Yes, it shows the beauty of a traditional Japanese dance our female lead performs, but live action film can show the beauty of dance and culture through detailed costuming and lighting too. Yes, it shows the expressions of frustrated or shocked characters when put in difficult situations, but these characters voice their frustrations either outright or through a voiceover and don't need to rely on expression completely or even at all. I think the only defense it has for its animation is when the male and female leads switch bodies, showing their small feminine or masculine gestures. But then we get these lengthy scenes of them not switched, so it's just people walking and talking like usual. Not to mention their switch doesn't stay true to one character, but again, I will get into writing problems later. Now, if we compare the ending of A Silent Voice to Your Name, you can see which was made with animation in mind and which was made with only a general film in mind. I'll play them back to back if YouTube allows me and see for yourself which one lends itself to animation more. For A silent voice, we watch as our male lead sobs for nearly an entire minute, his tears made large and visible due to the over-exaggeration animation gives. With how it's filmed, this may be very awkward for a live action, considering tears aren't always so visible, and if not acted well, watching someone stand there and sob for nearly a minute would come off more as a gag. Hell, even when acted well, I think it'd just feel awkward. Honestly, animation's ability of being able to show raw, drawn-out scenes of someone crying with over-exaggerated tears has always been one of the things that makes the medium feel so expressive. Continuing with the scene, around our male lead, strips of blurred confetti fly while characters cut in and out with a bright, patterned background, each showing an emotion and body language of what their character embodies. This kind of rapid cut with a bright or patterned background is something that's mostly unique to animation or anime, because attempting to replicate this for a live action usually looks cheesy or cheap. If you don't believe me, just look at every 90s music video ever. While this scene can be replicated for a live action, it probably shouldn't be, and that's how you should be making animation. Then if we compare it to the ending scene in Your Name, well, it's a film. Yes, it shows their expression, but again, a silent voice focuses purely on expression, not even having any dialogue in the last scene. Your Name, however, not only has dialogue, but these shots are just very standard for any film. It doesn't feel like the animation is here for anything. I mean, if this shot of a car wasn't drawn so well and was just a car, you probably wouldn't be going, ooh. But this scene is just them on the stairs, and it's basically just shot reverse shot. It can so simply be recreated that it has been recreated with just a camera, which amuses me far too much. It can be argued the reason this was animated was to make it so scenes that would be normal for a live action stand out due to it being drawn, but doesn't that kind of just sound like a really cheap way to invest you in a film? Like, instead of a real city time-lapse, you get an animated city time-lapse. Instead of a real post-box, you get an animated post-box. Instead of a real cumulus cloud, you get an animated cumulus cloud. Yes, it all looks stunning, but this is a feature-length film with story and characters, and how pretty a film isn't all that a film is meant to be, especially an animated one. Something else animation has more freedom to do compared to live action is explore sound design. In A Silent Voice, there's the sound of a dreaded thump and a ringing when the male lead sees his clean desk. There's the muffled voice with a droning rumble as he asks someone to be his friend for the first time. There's a distorted descending sound mixed with the echoes of incomprehensible conversation that become the school bell ringing. There's also the bright ringing when he sees someone clearly for the first time, and the sound of muffled fireworks pounding like a thudding heartbeat while the music crescendos rapidly to mirror our male lead's rising fear and anxiety. But if you want to see a masterful use of sound and animation, as stated before, Studio Ghibli uses it to its full potential. Then Your Name, while having a good soundtrack, is just upbeat pop rock music, standard anime music, sudden pop song for a montage, admittedly beautiful piano music, and then another pop song. The only interesting uses of sound I could find were during the comet scene and the flashback scene, but there's not really any instances of sound being used to show character or character perspective. The sound for Your Name is typical. It doesn't feel like it has a unique identity. It sounds like anything you'd find in a standard anime film or just anime in general. When looking at the soundtrack, the only song I can remember is the ending pop song. This anime is just filled with pop, and while pop can be used effectively, I don't think they do this in Your Name. If anything, it just gives the movie a tone problem, considering it's this upbeat, happy scene with this fun song, and then suddenly all these people are dead. But it doesn't stick with me like the classic track of One Summer's Day from Spirited Away, or had the impact it had on me like the final song in A Silent Voice. And both of those pieces don't even have words. I know many of you probably think I'm being too harsh on Your Name for this detail, but animation, music, and sound design all go hand in hand, because music is there to build the world and give us the tone of the film, while sound design can be used to express character identity, character perspective, and envelop us in the world being created for us. But Your Name's animation is so beautiful that we don't really think about it, and we don't really hear the music behind it. We just kind of stare at it and feel too in awe of that one particularly pretty flower that we're not noticing what else is happening. That's basically my rant on the animation and its misuse of it. I did say I'd get into the writing, and I need you to know I'm just doing it so when you look back on the movie, you can pay attention to these things instead of the pretty animation. The main problem with Your Name's story is it's a bit convoluted, not in a way that people can't understand it, but in a way that there's so much happening it becomes lost for what it's supposed to be. Like I said, it has a tone problem, and having the climax be a whole town getting wiped out when the entire movie centered around these two switching bodies and discovering the ups and downs of a different life was really odd. It felt like an M. Night movie in the sense they cared more about the gotcha moment of the plot twist than what that plot twist would actually mean for the film. Then there's the glaring plot hole of why they didn't know they were in different years. I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, I remember the year being written somewhere on a blackboard or on a computer or on a phone or in my fucking books. Maybe Japanese schools work differently, I don't know. Maybe they just refuse to let you know what year you're in Japanese schools because it's forbidden knowledge only the adults are allowed to know. Then of course there's our male lead being a dumb fuck of not even asking anyone what town he's in when switching bodies. Is that also forbidden knowledge? Does no one know where they live? Why didn't he ask? Because it would have been a shorter movie that way, that's why. The character development is, well, there's one but not the other. Our female lead develops in the sense that she goes from shy and quiet to courageous and assertive, similar to Chihiro in Spirited Away. Our male lead, however, he doesn't change. It's really weird, considering this film, I assume, was meant to have a female and male character take the other's more masculine and feminine traits because of the switch. But our male lead isn't typically masculine. I mean, he's a guy, but he feels as if he's already more of, and excuse the term, beta male.
And you beta orbiter male.
For whatever reason, he's incredibly aggressive when he's in our female lead's body, but he is nothing like that when he's in his own body. They don't keep his character consistent, and because of it, it just feels like nothing happens with him. And with a film that's meant to explore the positives of including a more masculine or feminine mindset depending on who you are, that's kind of a big problem. Look, overall, this movie is definitely one for straight people. The story didn't feel like anything special, it just seemed like boy meets girl with extra steps. But people eat that shit up, so who am I to complain about it? I just wish this film could have not only utilized its animation more, but been more. This switch of gender, especially in Japan that's still a society heavy with expected gender roles, is something that can create an incredible eye-opening story for anyone watching. The way our male lead didn't mention how he had to worry about men picking up his skirt or harassing him as a female, and how our female lead didn't face any bad-mouthing or bullying in high school for acting feminine and out of place as a male, made me realize this film didn't really care to ask any societal questions by switching them. It was just, haha, look, he touched her boobs, and oopsie, she can't look at his dick, and oh no, country bumpkin is in the big city and city boy has to deal with shitty dirt town, and it was just disappointing for me. So if you have this incredible animated film that's not even using its animation properly and isn't even using its themes to ask questions properly, then is it really that great just because that one cloud looked really good? It's your choice on whether you love it or not. I won't force you to dislike this film since I'm glad others can get enjoyment out of it when I can't, but I do think these things are worth taking into consideration. Thanks for watching. I was always going to make a video on this topic, and if you haven't seen Your Name, I bet this was confusing as fuck, so go watch it and come back with your own opinion on it. And if you have watched it and you have your own opinion of it, I would love to hear it. But I beg of you to be orderly with it, since I can assure you my life goal isn't to piss you off personally by insulting a movie you really like. Also, please do watch A Silent Voice. It's a gorgeous film and it's worth your time. See you in whatever I make next.